Welcome, everybody, and welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome, fellow deplorables. Welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, and I'm coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. And joining me today as my co-host is the patriot from the battle-born state, the silver state of Nevada, my good friend Sharron Engel. Sharron, welcome back to Conservative Commandos.
Thanks, Rick. 2 days in a row. Wow, this is great.
2 days in a row.
2 days in a row.
You know, Sharron, I almost feel funny welcoming you back to Conservative Commandos because you are Conservative Commandos. So I have to think of something a little different. Got to think of something a little different to say there, you know?
Well, you know, there are a few of us Commandos. I'm thinking, you know, we have such great co-hosts. We hardly ever talk about that, but there's you, the founder and producer of this show and the original Conservative Commando. There's me, of course, Sharron Engel, Nasser Sheikh, Dr. Wright, Dr. Nasser Sheikh, who's usually here on Tuesdays and does a great show. In fact, he also does a commentary, as do our other two co-hosts, Rick Manning and George Landreth. They both have their own PACs, their own organizations, and yet they take time out to do Conservative Commandos, report on the news, and make commentary. So it's a lineup, I think, that's great. And we've also added Bobby Eberly to our force here, and of course Dick Morris has granted us permission to add him to our force as well. So we have quite a few commandos in this lineup, as well as Jeff Cruer. I sometimes don't put him in the lineup, but Jeff also contributes to Conservative Commandos. And
Aaron, don't want to interrupt you, but I just want to say before we move on, I feel so blessed and lucky that over the past 10 years of doing Conservative Commandos, I've been so fortunate to work with so many great co-hosts.
Yeah, that's right. Well, anyway, I was going to go on to some of the odd things. The Pacific Northwest, in fact, in an article, was voted the most unfriendly place in America. They don't want to talk to you if they don't know you, but maybe one of the reasons they're so unfriendly... Well,
I always thought that was New York City, actually, but...
Well, it gets weirder. Washington State is the first state to allow composting of human bodies. This is such a...
What?
Disrespect. I know, composting. They say that that cremation is a problem because it interferes with the ozone and
oh my God,
puts carbon dioxide and particulates into the air. So now they are saying that they want a natural organic reduction. So they're going to compost and mix it with substances such as wood chips and straw in two wheelbarrows with the soil. In the span of several weeks, you can grow trees with your soil. I mean,
Sharron,
like
I remember
craziness.
there was a movie out there called Fargo, where a guy killed a person and put them in a wood chipper. All right, well, now we're going to use the same wood chipper that we chip wood to chip up people. And you know, Sharron, as something dies and decays, that also gives off gases. You know, where are these people coming? It's so idiotic. This argument is so idiotic that they don't want to cremate because it gives off gases. Well, if you want to take the ridiculous further, a decaying body also gives off gases. I mean, these people are ridiculous.
It's just it just goes from weird to bizarre, doesn't it? So I just have to shake my head. We talked yesterday a little bit about Brian Kolfage, who we featured in our Memorial Day tribute. Brian Kolfage has a new pack out, and what he's doing is privately building the wall on private property. He has done what the president has been unable to do because of court interference and legislative interference, but he actually has a project in New Mexico building a wall, which has really been exciting, and it's only taken him 2 weeks They had a 60-foot link that they needed to complete between the Texas wall and the New Mexico wall where those two connect. And they started, and the town of Sunland in New Mexico, right there on the border, said, you must cease and desist. Now, this is on private land, has been private since before New Mexico was a state. So, there really is no government claim to this land. So, but the city now has said that they don't have the proper permitting to build this wall. They are 80% complete. We're scheduled to complete the wall by next Monday. It's an 18-foot wall. It has lighting scheduled to go in, and Brian Kofage already said that the wall is working. The fellows wanting to jump that wall have come up to where it is and decided, maybe not here.
Well, I have a solution for this. I think that we should stock the Rio Grande River with piranha and alligator. Okay? I put it piranhas, the fish, the flesh-eating fish. Stock the Rio Grande with piranha. Stock the Rio Grande with alligators. That'll stop a lot of it.
If there was water in the Rio Grande, that would be good. Sometimes,
I think there is.
Sometimes there isn't.
Oh, okay.
It's
for the times that there is, it'll work.
It's the American Southwest for you, right? We have rivers, and then sometimes we have dry rivers.
Right.
There are those problems with putting fish in rivers that dry up, but and I think there are parts of the Rio Grande that do that. So anyway, it was just interesting to me how they had this cease and desist order. The attorney for Build a Wall went in and to get the permits, and everybody was on vacation. By golly.
Very interesting.
So they said, no worries, just go ahead, start your project. You can come in because everything's in order. You can come in and get the permit and pay for it after we get back from vacation. Well, after they got back from vacation, then the mayor got involved and said, no, this is not going to work. You've got an 18-foot fence, and you can't have a fence higher than 6 feet. Come on. 6 feet,
Yeah.
Really? I think I could climb a 6-foot wall, and I'm not very tall. But anyway.
Well, the other thing, Sharron, I wonder, okay, this town, Sunland, Texas, or New Mexico, maybe it's time to alert the people down there. I'm sure they're being affected by these border crossings, these illegal border crossings. I'm sure they're affected by the crime, the trash, the disease that come along with these people crossing there. I wonder how they feel about it. Maybe that mayor, maybe that council, maybe they're into get kicked out of office by the voter.
Well, bless Brian Kofage's heart. He just called it what it is, and that's a political tactic. He said this has nothing to do with the problem. And the problem is that they are gaining agents' attention, these crossers,
Right.
so that the drug smugglers use it as a distraction so they can cross elsewhere in this gap. And on a typical night, those $100,000 worth of drugs could come through that gap. So,
Wow.
it is a big problem, and I think the people of Sunland Park, New Mexico, understand that. And you're right. Brian Kofage has
Kick
called
him out of office.
Brian Kofage has called it, and I think they have given him just one more way to build the wall, and that's, as you say, get those guys that are obstructionists, true obstructionists, out of office, which leads us to the next thing that I pulled up, which was...
Well, wait a second.
Okay,
Sharron,
you want to go for
have to hold it. Well, we have to. We're driven by the clock here.
Darn, so much to talk about and so little time.
We can expand the show if you like. We can make it 3-4 hours. Continuous 24 hours a day. I don't know if I'll be here all the time.
Lots of material anyway.
All right. But this is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. As usual, we got three great guests that are going to be joining us during today's show, and some terrific information, a lot of great topics, a lot of great articles. Today's show, like all our shows, is brought to you by the First Amendment, protected by the Second. Don't go away. Sharron and I will be right back.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America, and get this. Did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
And welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. For rebroadcast, check out our website, ccrshow.com. That's ccrshow.com. You'll find rebroadcasts of our TV show, our radio show, a lot of great information, a lot of great articles. But don't look for us on Facebook. Facebook has banned our website, saying it's a violation of their community standards. And this is the third week that we have been banned by Facebook. Sharron, we got three great guests joining us today.
We do. And our first guest is Jennifer Braceras. She's a senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. Jennifer Braceras is a political columnist and a former commissioner of the United States Commission of Civil Rights. She is thrilled to renew her association with the Independent Women's Forum, where almost 2 decades ago she served as legal policy fellow. A graduate of Harvard Law School, Jennifer often writes about issues at the intersection of law, politics, and culture. Her work has appeared in the Wall Street Journal, National Review Online, Boston Globe, the Boston Herald, the Washington Times, and the Weekly Standard. She also has a keen interest in America as an idea, particularly the notions of American exceptionalism and the American dream. And we've asked Jennifer to come on and talk about my home state. Our legislature just did this. Nevada set to join compact to subvert the Electoral College. This is that national popular vote that will undermine the rights of smaller states, of the minority states. It will make it a popular vote that is cast, so whatever New York and California decide, the rest of the United States will have to go along with, because that's where the popular vote will be for the majority vote. She also wrote another article that we hope we can get to. Closely watched opioid case against manufacturers starts today. And I know this is a topic that we often like to cover, because there really is no reason why we can't begin to correct this problem. Of course, the open borders, we just talked about, that is one of the problems. So we'll be interested to have Jennifer talking about these two subjects. Our second guest is Lauretta Brown, who is a National Catholic Register's Washington-based staff writer. Previously, she's been a correspondent for CNS News and the managing editor at townhall.com. Lauretta is going to talk to us about the 2020 Democrats embrace late-term taxpayer-funded abortion. None of the party's candidates for president have supported even minimal restrictions on the availability of abortion. And of course, that brings me to
Murder on demand. Murder on demand.
Yeah, that brings me to crazy Ginsburg on the Supreme Court. She says that Justice Thomas is wrong, that a woman seeking abortion is not a mother. Well, we could almost agree with her there, couldn't we? Couldn't we? Anybody that kills their children probably isn't much of a mother, but that's one of those things that Justice Thomas just said, she doesn't make any sense.
Nope. I agree with that.
Our last guest is Michael Stumo, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Coalition for Prosperous America, CPA, a coalition of agriculture, manufacturing, and organized labor associations, companies, and individuals. CPA works for policies to balance U.S. trade, maintain U.S. sovereignty, and develop an effective national production and economic strategy. We've asked him to come on and talk about a press release. New CPA study shows across-the-board China tariff would boost U.S. economy and create thousands of jobs. This is part of what President Trump has been doing with his international policies and his trade policies. And of course, the Democrats, they always and the media paint this bleakly by calling it a trade war. It's not a war, it's a defense, I guess, of our own companies here in America. Why should we be giving away for free what other companies will not reciprocate with? We pay huge tariffs, and they're getting away with lower tariffs coming from us. So he's just leveling the playing field on the international scene, and CPA is going to come in and talk about how that is going to actually create more jobs here at home.
All right. So again, another day, another three great guests joining us.
That's right.
Sharron, what else is on your radar screen?
Well, we've been talking about Mueller, and I don't think that Mueller is going away any soon, although he says he is. He says he's done. He's retiring. The report is his testimony, but he goes on to say some things that are just really insightful. If we had confidence the president didn't commit a crime, we would have said so. And then
how do you prove a negative, Sharron? How do you prove a negative?
It's just fuel for the Democrat fire of this impeachment. He says the president cannot be charged with a federal crime while he's in office. That's unconstitutional. Since when has he been interested in the Constitution? I would point to our guest yesterday who said, we've been spied on. Obama's administration spied on the American public. Where's the outrage for that? and the deep state, the FBI, the DOJ, and the TSA, where is the outrage when it comes to these governmental deep state spying on Americans? And of course, Obama knew, the White House knew, and probably asked for them to do it. It is what it's kind of coming out.
If nothing else, it's pretty clear now that the Russians did try to interfere in our election. And I say this time and time again. Who was the president in 2016? Who was the president that allowed this to happen? It wasn't Donald Trump. Donald Trump was not president in 2016. It was Barack Obama. Where's the investigation into Obama and the Obama administration? Why they let this happen?
Well,
where's that investigation? Where's Mueller on that?
Well, Mueller, he really is just wanting this impeachment. So he's inciting Congress, the Pelosi, Schumer bunch, into pushing forward, saying there's a crime committed here, but because of the Constitution, I can't charge him, so you should. And I believe that's really what they're going to do. So it's an interesting thing, but you know what? Take your best shot. And I think that's exactly what President Trump has said. Take your best shot.
Indeed. President Trump responded saying that, quote, nothing changes after special counsel Robert Mueller explained during his first comments on the Russian investigation why he did not charge the president with obstruction of justice. Nothing changes from the Mueller report. There's insufficient evidence, and therefore our country, a person is innocent, case closed. That comes from President Donald Trump.
Well, I want to move on a little bit to the Supreme Court. We kind of discussed it with Bader Ginsburg and Justice Thomas and that ridiculous statement. But here's one that's really concerning to me. The U.S. Supreme Court announced Tuesday that it will not consider a challenge brought by a conservative legal organization to a Boyertown area school district policy allowing transgender students to use bathrooms and locker rooms that correspond with their gender identity. In so doing, the justices rejected the latest iteration of an argument from students at the school who argued that the policy infringed on their rights to privacy. You know, I couldn't agree more with the students' complaint, and yet the Supreme Court is saying no, we don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear that one. So I'm disappointed. We fight so hard to get Kavanaugh and Gorsuch appointed, and and then they let something like this kind of fall.
Sharron, it just goes to show that we must continue the fight. The fight is not over. The situation is not resolved. We have to continue to fight to get conservatives and the right conservatives on the Supreme Court who are going to protect the American people. Simple.
Well, and after hearing what Justice Ginsburg said about the abortion issue, maybe she's next to go. Maybe we will get one more before the end of the Trump presidency. So we can pray for that we will get enough justices that will hear these things and decide for family values, decide for American values, decide for constitutional values.
That's right.
So my last little article here was the Democrats now, they're going to put a ceiling on who can debate. They've got 23 candidates, and now they got to say, no, we just can't have that many people on the podium. So you got to have at least 1% in 3 polls, and 130,000 individual donors.
Yeah, well, I don't care about that. Let them decide that. That's their cat fight.
Yeah, but it kind of takes the bottom right out of their slate here. The only ones to survive that are right now are Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Kamala Harris, Amy Klobuchar.
Klobuchar.
Oh, Klobuchar. Oh, good. Thank you. I thought, who is this person? Cory
She's
Booker.
a senator from North Dakota or something like that.
Okay.
She made her reputation in the hearings,
Well,
the Judge Gorsuch hearings.
Well, obviously not much of an impact in the Angle household since I can't even pronounce her name. Cory Booker.
My prediction, by the way, I posted something on Facebook. Question of the day: who do you think the first Democrat candidate to quit will be? And got all kinds of answers and responses. Somebody asked me. I said, I think it's Amy Klobuchar.
Yeah.
No one knows her.
That's right. Well, here's another one. Pete Buttigieg made the cut. Cory Booker, your favorite, made the cut, and Beto O'Rourke.
Clone.
Yeah, and Beto O'Rourke. So those are the ones that are really now in the running. The rest of them have got to do something really, really spectacular to get in on that stage. And that just brings to mind our favorite prognosticator, Dr. Gerard Lamero, who said it's Michelle Obama all the way. Well, she better.
We got to get them on again. With all these new candidates, we got to get them on again next week.
Well, and also with this new
feeling.
rule, if she doesn't get in the hunt here pretty quickly, she'll be excluded from that stage of debaters. Maybe she wants to be. I wouldn't want to be in that kind of a fight myself. Wait for the crowd to thin a bit, and then jump in. New blood after they've completely pecked these ones apart might be her strategy.
All right, Sharron, got to go to a break. Get our first guest on. And this is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader. Don't go away. We'll be right back with Jennifer Braceras. She's a senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. And we're going to be talking about your home state, Sharron. Nevada is set to join Compact to subvert the electoral, not electrical, but the Electoral College. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is, there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to BuyYourTimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's BuyYourTimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
And welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader. For rebroadcast of our show, please check out our website, ccrshow.com. That's ccrshow.com. And you can find rebroadcasts of our TV show there, our radio show there. A lot of terrific articles and a lot of terrific information about our show, our co-hosts, and our guests. And with that, Sharron, we do have our first guest of the day with us, and it's your honor to make the introduction.
Well, it is a privilege and an honor to introduce Jennifer Braceras, who's a senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum. Jennifer Braceras is a political columnist and a former commissioner of the United States Commission on Civil Rights. She is also a graduate of Harvard Law School, and she often writes about issues at the intersection of law, politics, and culture. Her works appeared in the Wall Street Journal, National Review Online, the Boston Globe, the Boston Herald, the Washington Times, and the Weekly Standard. She also has a keen interest in America as an idea, particularly the notions of American exceptionalism and the American dream. Jennifer, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thanks for having me again.
Well, it's our pleasure, and especially my pleasure. We're going to talk about my home state here in an article that you wrote. Nevada set to join compact to subvert the Electoral College. Let's talk about that, Jennifer. We've been fighting it here, but I think that the rest of the nation needs to know that this is not just a crazy idea in Nevada. This is really a national movement, isn't it?
It is a national movement, and it's been sort of going on under the radar. People don't pay attention to it if it's not happening in their state, or if it did happen in their state a while back, they've sort of forgotten about it because it hasn't taken effect. But it very well could take effect if they get enough states to sign on, and Nevada would be the 15th state to join the compact, to essentially get rid of the Electoral College and elect the president by national popular votes.
And how many electoral votes do they need in order to, and I want to make this clear too, about what really the process would be even after they get all of these electoral votes. So let's talk about electoral votes that they need in order to, I guess, bring this topic to recognition. How about that?
Right. So under the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact, states' legislatures vote to give the state's electoral votes to whoever wins the national popular vote. However, the compact only becomes effective when enough states sign on to comprise 270 electoral votes, which is the number you need to win the presidency in the Electoral College. It's the majority of electoral votes. So once they get 270, the compact will take effect, and these states who have signed on to it will have to give their electors to the winner of the nationwide vote, even if a majority of voters in their state voted for somebody else. So, for example, if the voters of Nevada vote overwhelmingly for candidate A, but candidate B wins a plurality nationwide because they run up the vote counts in the large metropolitan areas, Nevada would need to give all of their electors to candidate B, the person who won the plurality, even though Nevadans didn't want that person.
Okay.
So that's how it would work in practice.
Okay, but our Constitution is pretty clear on the Electoral College. So let's go there now, because this seems like a fight brewing, I guess.
Yes. So I believe, and there are many constitutional scholars who believe, that this effort is unconstitutional because our founding fathers established in the Constitution the method by which presidents are to be elected, and that can only be changed by amending the Constitution in accordance with Article 5. And what this effort is a backdoor effort to try to amend the Constitution without amending the Constitution, so to speak.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah,
that's the way I see it, too.
Yeah, I think, and I would hope, that ultimately the Supreme Court would overturn it. It's similar, in my mind, to the term limits case that went before the Supreme Court years ago, where states voted to limit the terms of senators, and it went up to the High Court, and the Supreme Court said, yeah, no, you can't do that, because even though you agreed democratically to limit the terms of your senator in your state, that undermines the federalist nature of our Constitution. It undermines the system that was set up. Our founders didn't create limits for senators, and if we're going to impose those, the whole country has to agree to that through the amendment process.
Right, and that was a case that actually struck down what Nevada voters. We had voted for term limits on our federal elected officials, and when they threw that down, they said it would actually give us an unfair disadvantage in Congress because we'd be short timers. Our legislators would never be able to ascend to majority or minority leaders of their party, and those kinds of things beyond committees and chairmen of committees, because those things come with a long-standing person, and if you're not going to be there, they don't even consider you to be part of that. And that's practically what is going to happen to those states who don't agree with this, isn't it?
Right. So the notion is that you can't decide, states can't individually decide, even though they may do so democratically, to change the structural constitution or to change requirements or qualifications that are set out in the structural constitution. Any change to the structural constitution needs to be agreed on by everybody, by a majority of the states, in the way that was prescribed in Article 5.
And by doing this through this compact and allowing these states to put their electors in a popular vote situation, those who do not agree, those states who do not agree with that are put at a distinct disadvantage because their vote really doesn't count then, does it?
Well, that's true, but also it disadvantages sometimes the people in the states that did vote for it, because if those voters chose someone else, their state government has bound the state now and into perpetuity to allocate the electoral votes potentially a different way from the way the people voted.
Exactly right. So I don't see, and when the Supreme Court made their decision in that other case, which I'm glad you brought that comparison to us, because when they made that comparison, they said it's one man, one vote. That is what our system is based on. And I would think anyone who believes in democracy, and we, as you noted, we are a democratic republic and we have a federalist structure. But all of that together still comes down to this basic one man, one vote. All of our civil rights seem to hinge on that. And this is really just part of that as well, isn't it, Jennifer?
Yeah, well, the proponents of the national popular vote would use that term in their favor. They would say, well, we believe in one person, one vote. We think everybody's vote should count, and it shouldn't matter what state you're living in. And I understand why that has some surface appeal, but that is not the federal structure that was established by our founders. Our founders thought that states made a difference, and this was a way of securing buy-in from a range of states and a range of voters and preventing a plurality of voters in one section of the country or one type of area of the country, just large metropolitan areas, for example, from always controlling the outcome or ever controlling the outcome. The idea is that the person who becomes president needs to cobble together a coalition of voters of different backgrounds and from different regions. And if you can't do that, you can't win in the Electoral College. And it was thought that that would be a good thing because the president would then be more representative of the nation.
Well, I was excited, too, to read your article. We have to go to a break, but I want to just end with this quote, and it's the last paragraph here. In this case, the compact would thwart the intention of the framers of the original Constitution and the framers of the 12th Amendment, which reformed the Electoral College in 1804, since the Constitution clearly contemplates that electoral votes will be cast by the states as states rather than by the states as collective or compacting entities. So I didn't realize that the 12th Amendment had done this already. I thought I was a pretty good constitutional scholar, but I had overlooked that. So thanks for bringing that into your article as well. And with that, we are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. And now you can watch our TV show on the AUN TV network in places like San Francisco, San Rafael, Marin, North Bay, San Jose, and Sacramento, all in Northern California. We'll be right back. Rick Trader, my co-host, and I'm Sharron Engel with our guest, Jennifer Braceras. We've been talking about the national popular vote, and she also wrote an article, Closely Watched Opioid Case Against Manufacturers Starts Today. We'll be right back after this message.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes. Now, people say, why didn't you report it to the authorities? Well, they were the ones doing it.
The integrity of one man, one vote doesn't apply at the Texas state legislature. There is no way to know if your representatives are voting for themselves.
Department, a Republican, reaches back to vote for Democrat Lauretta. Democrat Matt Reynolds votes for Republican England.
2 out of 3 voters nationwide believe that voter fraud is a serious problem in the U.S. today.
The process is rigged.
Both sides of the aisle are guilty.
Florida now has to tell the Department of Justice whether the state will comply with DOJ's demand to stop purging thousands of people from its voter rolls.
We have the sloppiest election system of any industrialized democracy.
Philadelphia flagged 50,000 duplicate registrations, so just think how many more slipped through.
It's almost impossible to detect. How do you get caught? You only get caught if you confess.
Election corruption is deeply embedded in America. Quote, election fraud is a crime that usually pays, unquote, writes Tracy Campbell in his book, Deliver the Vote, A History of Election Fraud, an American political tradition from 1742 to 2004. In 1742, the first Prime Minister of Britain in the American colonies, Robert Walpole, was forced to resign.
We have a right not to have our vote canceled out by someone who shouldn't be voting, someone who's an illegal alien, someone who's a felon not eligible to vote, someone who doesn't exist. If they vote, they cancel your vote out as much as if you're prevented from voting.
If this is going to be fixed, it's going to have to be a citizen effort. It comes down to, it's the same old question, if not now, when? If not us, then who?
This is huge. This is about the democracy and the principles of the United States of America. People say, but why you? Why you? Why not? And if it starts with a fireman, if it starts with a sanitation worker, if it starts with a teacher or a nurse or a caretaker of the elderly, then so be it. It's got to start somewhere. But it's time we come together and fix this problem once and for all.
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
Serious allegations of voter fraud, the claims raising questions about the
Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and 32 others were on a military plane that crashed today in a violent storm. There are no known survivors at this time.
The U.S. Army was funded by the evil entity.
Saw voter fraud with my own eyes.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
The process is rigged.
People die and fall for the right it's too brutal.
So it's incredibly important now that we draw a line and say, not on our watch.
Thank you for staying with us. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader. And our guest this segment is Jennifer Braceras. She's a senior fellow at the Independent Women's Forum, and we're discussing an article or two that Jennifer wrote. Nevada set to join compact to subvert Electoral College. Jennifer, thank you for holding through that break. We appreciate your time.
No problem. I want to correct something that I said. We were talking about the amendment process, and I said the majority of states are required to amend the Constitution. That's actually not right. It's a supermajority. What's needed is 3/4 of the states to pass a constitutional amendment. And what's so pernicious about this effort to ditch the Electoral College by states just voting that they're not going to abide by it is that it wouldn't come even close to 3/4 of the states approving it. They'd be able to do it with much fewer states, with possibly as many as, 20 states, which is not even, not close to the 3/4. We'd need 38. So it's really I think, disingenuous way to get around the constitutional requirements.
Jennifer, I could also see this driving our country towards a constitutional crisis, dividing the states. And geez, I'll tell you what jumps in my mind, the South will rise again. And I mean that figuratively, not literally. In other words, we're going to have a huge divide in our country.
Well, I don't think it's the South necessarily.
No,
I
just use that term figuratively more than literally. But we're going to have a large number of states saying, "Whoa, not us." Whoa.
Right. I mean, what's interesting is that the people who tend to favor a national popular vote right now tend to be Democrats, whereas Republicans tend to favor keeping the Electoral College. But people need to realize that the Electoral College has no partisan advantage one way or the other. The Electoral College was created from behind the veil of ignorance, so to speak, right? The founders created it before there even were political parties. So it wasn't created to advantage one party or another. And over time, different parties have, played by the rules and taken advantage of it for their benefit. People thought for years that the Electoral College was stacked in favor of Republicans, and all of a sudden along came Bill Clinton, who drove a big hole through that theory, right? And then the flip side is that in 2016, all of the commentators were saying that the Democrats had a lock on the Electoral College, and along came Donald Trump, who drove a big hole through that theory. So if you know how to play the game and play by the rules, it doesn't favor one party or another. It just favors the candidate who understands the system and campaigns in the right places.
Well, that's exactly what Donald Trump said. He knew where to campaign. He knew where to put his efforts. Jennifer, you and Sharron were talking about this maybe going to the Supreme Court. How long of a time period do you think that would take? A year, 2 years, 10 years?
Well, I'm not sure, but I would like to see it stopped before it gets to the Supreme Court. I would like to see them not get enough states to sign on to make the compact effective. Because whenever we can avoid litigation, it's always good to avoid litigation. I'd just like to stop it in its tracks. But I hope that if it went up to the Supreme Court would, I'm fairly confident the Supreme Court would do the right thing.
Well, it depends on who's on the Supreme Court at the time. You know, Jennifer, another can of worms here that I fear would be opened by this is even more rampant voter fraud.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up because right now, if there's voter fraud, let's say you have a presidential election and there are allegations of voter fraud. Those allegations only matter insofar as they would affect the outcome in the Electoral College, right? So if the Electoral College victory is a clear victory, it doesn't matter if the popular vote is, just a few thousand votes apart or a few hundred votes apart, because fraud in one or two places won't make a difference in the Electoral College in most cases, right? The reason we had a contested election in 2000 with Al Gore and George Bush is because not only was the popular vote very close, but the Electoral College, the outcome in Florida, whichever way it went, would affect the Electoral College. And so we had all these recounts in Florida, and some would say fraud. Who knows? But, it was a big mess down there. And what you would see without the Electoral probably almost every 4 years.
Right. Jennifer, we lost you for a moment. Could you repeat that last statement you made?
Oh, sure. I don't know where you lost me. What I was essentially saying was that what we saw in Florida in 2000 would be replicated on a nationwide scale almost every 4 years without the Electoral College, because the system we have now takes account that close elections are not always going to be contested elections because the outcomes in the Electoral College are usually very clear. And so even if there was, some fraud in Chicago, or there were some votes that, absentee ballots that accidentally weren't counted here, the outcome, it wouldn't affect the outcome, and so therefore we don't really have to worry about it, and we don't have to litigate everything. But without the Electoral College, that would become more common.
Jennifer, in situations like this, one side or the other is always looking for the bad guy, the boogeyman. Is there any group, organization, somewhere like a George Soros or any organization that is pushing this?
It's being pushed by a group called the National Popular Vote, which is largely funded by progressives. They're the ones really pushing it. But again, I fail to understand why progressives are pushing this. I mean, I think
they look at Donald Trump. They look at George Bush. They forget Bill Clinton. They forget that Bill Clinton was benefited from this. But people have a narrow memory. Okay, but
so they're under the false illusion.
They remember Bill. They remember George Bush. They forget Bill Clinton.
Exactly. So they believe wrongly that without the Electoral College, Hillary Clinton would be president. But I actually don't think that's true. I think what happened in 2016 was that Hillary Clinton ran a horrible campaign. She was more concerned with running up the vote tally in places like Los Angeles and New York. She pulled her team out of Wisconsin. She ignored certain states because she thought she had a lock on the Electoral College. And so she didn't play the game well. If there had been a national popular vote at the time, Donald Trump would have had a very different ground game. And he very well may have still won the election. I think he would have. So it boggles my mind why progressives are for this, because it won't necessarily benefit them in the long run. The Electoral College is a neutral system. And it's not going to favor any one party for too long.
Right. Jennifer Braceras, Independent Women's Forum, we want to thank you for joining us on the Conservative Commandos radio show. I love the IWF. I absolutely love what you people, you ladies do at IWF. And we wanted to discuss another article with you. We won't have time, but I encourage our listeners to check out your writings. You have another great article, very timely. Closely watched opioid case against manufacturers start today. I just want to say one thing, Jennifer, then I'll give you about 30 seconds. Go ahead, people. Continue to sue the drug companies. Continue to sue the drug companies. Put them out of business, and we're all going to get sicker on this. Jennifer, am I outside the box on that?
No, not at all. This is even worse because it's not individuals suing the drug companies. It's the government, in this case the state of Oklahoma, suing the drug companies, asking them to pay for their essential services. And, that's just ridiculous. They're looking
and
to
these are
corporate
the
America.
same states. Probably a lot of these states are the same states that want to approve legal marijuana, all right? I don't get it. Hey, Jennifer, we got to run. We really do. But
great to talk to you.
Before you go, tell our audience how they could follow your work, read your articles, and find out more about the Independent Women's Forum.
Well, they can follow me on Twitter at J_Braceras, and they can follow the IWF on Twitter as well at IWF, or they can go to our website, IWF.org.
All right. Jennifer Braceras, thank you so much for joining us. Take care, and God bless.
You too. Bye-bye.
And this is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader. Again, on the other side, we're going to have another great guest. We're going to have Lauretta Brown join us, and Lauretta is going to talk about the 2020 Democrats embrace late-term taxpayer-funded abortion. Don't go away. We will be right back.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving, and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America, and get this. Did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Welcome back to Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader. Want to give a shout out to the folks who listen to us on radio stations in Jacksonville, Tampa, and Villages, Florida, Las Vegas and Reno, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster and Pittsburgh, Boulder and Colorado Springs, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Long Beach, California, and now in Arlington, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., as well as being seen on the AON television network in places like Sacramento, San Jose, and San Francisco, California. Sharron, I'm so glad to have this next lady with us. I followed her and read her articles for quite some time. Just this is the first opportunity we've had to get her on the show, and please make that introduction.
I'm pleased to make the introduction of Lauretta Brown, who is the National Catholic Register's Washington-based staff writer. She previously has been a correspondent for CNS News and also managing web editor at townhall.com. Lauretta, welcome to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here.
Well, it's our pleasure to have you. As Rick said, finally. We are interested in an article that you wrote. 2020 Democrats embrace late-term, taxpayer-funded abortion. None of the party's candidates for president have supported even minimal restrictions on the availability of abortion. Why is that, Lauretta? Why are we seeing such a almost a closing of the ranks around this issue?
You know, it's interesting. I wondered the same thing as I was writing this article, because it is very much closed ranks around the issue, and they are very, very strong in their unwillingness to budge, even just a little bit. You know, as I mentioned, the polling suggests this is a pretty extreme position, even just for the mainstream Democrat. And I think I've talked to several different people about this, and I think part of it is the abortion lobby's stranglehold on the party. I think they're afraid of any sort of kind of middle ground on this stance, because they want to be perceived as very pro-abortion, pro-woman. They believe that's where their support is generally, and so they don't want to kind of come down, put on even a little bit of a restriction on it. And it's kind of sad. It seems pretty misinformed, given the polling I bring up in my story, and polling I've seen just my whole time covering this issue is just that I think if more Democrats realized where the American public stood on this, they might be less afraid of the abortion lobby and have more willingness to say, well, hey, I am willing to place a restriction after the second trimester,
Well, and certainly it seems that they will lose Missouri. Planned Parenthood has pulled out of Missouri today. They announced that they were closing their last abortion clinic there. So, let's talk a little bit about the polling and what has been found. You point that out in your article, and these aren't just right-wing polls. These are pretty much what people would call mainstream polling.
Right, exactly, and that's something that really struck me. Is the first thing I brought up was the Marist polling, that's commissioned by the Knights of Columbus, but it's a very respectable polling service, and the results are generally found to be worthwhile and worth paying attention to, and that found that 75% of Americans and 61% of those who identify as pro-choice would like to limit abortion to just the first 3 months of pregnancy. Okay, so that's the first thing that I was like, wow, that's 3/4 of Americans, and significantly over half of those who would even call themselves pro-choice want just abortions to occur earlier on. And then the Gallup polling, which everybody knows Gallup's polling. Gallup doesn't really, take any sort of pro-life stance. I think Gallup polling is pretty widely recognized as a legitimate source, and those statistics surprised me even more in some ways, because they had this very fascinating graph, and I suggest people follow that link and look at those graphs because it's very interesting. But the graph showed that 28% of Americans support abortion in the second trimester, and just 13% of Americans support it in the third trimester. And I believe that was 18% of Democrats. I didn't mention that in the story, but in that graph it showed that if they broke it down by party, 18% of Democrats supported it in the third trimester, which it's not a lot, you know?
Right.
So.
Well, and you talk about these candidates and the women. I guess that's the most surprising of all to me. They are really pushing all the way through the third trimester, and some of them beyond, into this idea of infanticide, that after the baby's born, there's a legitimacy to call that an abortion, post birth abortion or something. It's striking to me. Talk about these women that are running for office on the Democrat side and their stands here.
Right. Well, I quoted several of them. Yeah, Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, Kirsten Gillibrand, Amy Klobuchar, and all of them, when asked about where they would place the restriction, answered that was up to a woman or up to a woman in her position to make that choice, make that decision. So essentially, there should be no restrictions, is what they were answering. And then this week, I was kind of taken aback noticing Kirsten Gillibrand has really gone even further and is trying to make abortion the centerpiece of her campaign. Is trying to say, like, this is where, this is the issue I'm going to protect. This is such an important central issue. There's a fascinating Politico piece on that I was reading. And then Kamala Harris just released details of a plan to attempt to make it harder for states to put any restrictions on abortion as well. So she wanted to go about having a policy where if states tried, I guess, either some or a certain amount of restrictions on abortion that didn't hold up in courts, they wouldn't be allowed to introduce more later. And of course, that would have to go through Congress, but that's the sort of policy plan she's proposing. And it was very surprising to me to read through the details of that, and I wonder how much support she would have. I think what it is she's hearing people become concerned over some of these pro-life laws, and she thinks that just this loud group of people who are, I guess, concerned about Roe v. Wade and concerned about the makeup of the Supreme Court these ideas might appeal to them, but it is I think it's a chilling sounding policy idea, no matter what side you fall, to hear that, there's consideration of legislation that could tell the states how they could even govern the issue at all,
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I guess I want to say shame on you, Ms. Gillibrand, being a Catholic, because we know that the Catholics have stood up so strong for life, willing to really go to the line on this issue, go to jail.
Willing to go to jail, right?
Yeah, shame on you, Ms. Gillibrand. Because it's really disconcerting for Catholics. I would think she would have lost the Catholic vote, and why would you tell someone you were a Catholic if you didn't want them to? If you didn't want that vote in the first place.
Sharron, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt again. It's not just her, it's Joe Biden. Joe Biden's a Catholic, and he says, well, I'm against abortion, but I'm not going to stop anybody who wants to have one. Well, gee, I'm not against murder, but go shoot somebody. I'm against burglary. Go rob your neighbor's house. I wouldn't do it, but if you want to do it, go ahead. I mean, this is how ridiculous it is. I'm sorry, Sharron. I'm sorry, Lauretta, but it just drives me crazy when you talk about these supposed Catholics who says, well, it's against my judgment, it's against my beliefs, but if you want to do it, go ahead. I mean, how crazy is that?
Well,
sorry.
Lauretta, I wanted to get on to this oxymoron that I find here in your article. You talk about all the the pro-abortion right up to the moment of birth and beyond Democrats, and then your last paragraph is about pro-life Democrats. That seems to be an oxymoron to me. Is there such a thing as a pro-life Democrat?
So there are a few, and it's a shame that there aren't more. There used to be more. Historically, we've seen the party go farther and farther left on this issue, as I think I mentioned a few examples of that in my piece. But we do have Congressman Dan Lipinski, who's a very staunch pro-life advocate and has been throughout his career. And he's just this week, like if you look up some of the news on this, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee chair, Congresswoman Bustos, she pulled out of doing a fundraiser for him because of this issue, because she was facing so much heat. Because I mean, they're friends. She was going to do it, but Kirsten Gillibrand actually, and Congresswoman Jayapal, a few other people who they're kind of the progressive faction of the Democrats, the far left, they got very upset about this, and they have been very vocal about, no, the Democratic Party needs to get behind his primary challenger, Marie Newman, because she's very staunchly pro-abortion. So and that's really, in terms of like political etiquette, to not back an incumbent in a primary, that's not a thing that's normally done. So that shows how committed some in the Democratic Party are to this. And I mean, Congressman Lipinski's, he has the support of many in his district. I mean, he won in 2018, and I don't know what's going to happen in 2020 for him, but he's not afraid to continue to speak out on this issue. I've interviewed him a couple times, and he's very vocal about it. Some call him the last, like, consistently pro-life Democrat in the House. Although there are a couple others who will occasionally vote pro-life, and there's Governor John Bel Edwards in Louisiana. I was recently, he's planning to sign the heartbeat bill there. That's what he's told the media, that's part of his consistent pro-life worldview, and it's very nice actually over there to have a pro-life Democratic governor. It's kind of a very unique thing, because I'm sure you guys have seen in the States there's been a lot of noise about these heartbeat bills, and like in Georgia, Hollywood's threatening to boycott over that and all of that. And usually they kind of villainize the Republican governor, even the female Republican governor, Kay Ivey. But yeah, in this instance, it's a Democrat who's saying, well, hey, wait a minute, no, I'm a pro-life Democrat, and he's given some very thoughtful comments about that, and just talked about how, like, he's actually Catholic. That's part of his faith, part of his worldview. And he even argues that it's in line with his ethics as a Democrat, about like trying to help the vulnerable and stuff. And it's very interesting, his position in the party. And so, I mean, these are just a couple examples. And unfortunately, there are only a few examples of pro-life Democrats in Congress, etc. But they do exist.
It would be very difficult to stay in a party that is so opposed on something so fundamental as the right to life. That just seems like a part of our Declaration of Independence, that we are guaranteed that inalienable right to life. And it doesn't seem to be a decision that is made whether your life has value about the place where you're living at the moment. And these children, of course, are just living inside the womb, and now they have given up their rights, or someone has taken their rights, more precisely. The rest of your article, I know Rick's going to want to go into it, and we have to go to a break right now, so we're gonna do that and let Rick have his turn.
Thought I did. That's why I gave you a few extra minutes, Sharron.
Okay, but we're coming.
Just sometimes it just fries me.
No, That was a little tongue-in-cheek. I think Lauretta and I both realized we hit your hot button. We are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. And now you can watch us in Northern California on the AUN TV network. We'll be right back with my co-host Rick Trader. I'm Sharron Angle, and our guest Lauretta Brown, talking about the 2020 Democrat ticket and their complete sellout to the pro-choice lobby.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is, there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to BuyYourTimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's BuyYourTimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
And thank you for staying with us. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle. Yes, that's Sharron Angle, and yours truly, Rick Trader. Our guest this segment is Lauretta Brown. She's a correspondent for the National Catholic Register. I've been a fan of Lauretta for quite some time, and she's written a very interesting article, 2020 Democrats Embrace Late-Term Taxpayer-Funded Abortion. Lauretta, thank you for holding through that break. We really do appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me on.
Lauretta, when we look at your article, when we read your article and you report on some polls, this does not seem to be a winning plank in anybody's campaign. You have here the Knights of Columbus. They sponsored a poll that found that 75% of Americans and even 61% of those identified as pro-choice would limit abortion in the first 3 months. Also, a Gallup poll has found that while 60% of Americans support abortion in the first trimester, that number drops to 28% in the second trimester and 13% in the third. You agree with me? Not a winning plank in anybody's platform?
Yeah, definitely. The polling seems to indicate that this is not an issue that should be embraced to the extent that it is, and it's frankly surprising to me that Democrats haven't looked at this polling better or aren't acting as though they're aware of this and of the unpopularity of this issue.
And Lauretta, following this issue, participating in the March for Life, following the March for Life, and the news that's reported on this issue, it seems to me that people, the public in general, are coming around to decide that this baby in the womb is a life. And that more and more when people realize that, they are supporting pro-life more than pro-choice. Do you have any statistics on that, Lauretta?
Well, I think that same Marist polling that I linked to did show more people identifying in pro-life as pro-life than in the past. And I can't remember if that was the polling from January or if it was, I believe actually it was in February. It was their February polling. I'd have to have the numbers in front of me, but as I recall, there was a spike in the number of people identifying as pro-life, and it followed the scandal over the late-term abortion debate, which, as you mentioned, and as I highlight here, it's not, Americans don't like to see that. Americans don't like to see abortions in the third trimester. And so that spike in polling came around the time of Virginia Governor Ralph Northam's kind of shocking comments about potentially leaving an infant to die after a failed abortion. So this is when you have a baby that's just been delivered. And then President Trump had mentioned that in his State of the Union speech, and we had the New York law that permitted abortion until birth in certain cases. And so I think there was a lot of initial momentum on this issue in the beginning of the year because it was being talked about. People saw, from the Democrats even. I think sometimes that's a complaint in the pro-life movement is that this issue just isn't even talked about enough. But this push from the Democrats for late-term abortion, I think, actually got some people to examine and re-examine their stance on this because it was being talked about and debated, and people did get to see that there is late-term abortion in this country, and that it's why is this necessary? They were asking these questions, So it's right. I think it is a good thing that it's being talked about, that it's being discussed.
Well, when you call Northam's comment shocking, I think that's putting it mild. I mean, what gets me is how quick people got over that. It's like, oh, people forgot about that. Now, boy, if that was a Republican that said something similar, it would never, ever be forgotten. Lauretta, in your article, you write, Warren, Klobuchar, Gillibrand, Harris, all co-sponsored the Each Woman Act that would repeal the Hyde Amendment. First of all, would you please explain to us or remind us what the Hyde Amendment is?
Yeah, so the Hyde Amendment is a longstanding rider on funding that bans taxpayer-funded abortion, and it's uncontroversial or had been uncontroversial in Congress. It passes with the spending bill on a bipartisan basis, and it's very. I think it was one of those very common sense measures that just said, okay, well, we'll have abortion be legal, but since there's so many people with objections, we're not going to have taxpayers fund it to violate their conscience and pay for something that they don't agree with. But as I mentioned in my story, recently in the 2016 election, in particular, I think this got louder. Democrats decided that they wanted to repeal the Hyde Amendment, and their reasoning, their line of argument is about, oh, well, poor women don't have access to abortions because of this. Right. So we saw a gradual flip-flopping, like I mentioned, Senator Tim Kaine, who also identifies as a Catholic, who he flipped on that issue when he became Hillary Clinton's running mate in 2016. The party changed its platform to include that in 2016. And for a while, it seemed like maybe this was something Joe Biden was willing to be a little more moderate on. I mean, he because he had said, I can't remember the year he had most recently said it, but he had seemed to back that, and he had voted that way when he himself had been in the Senate and all of that. You know, he'd been a supporter of the Hyde Amendment, and then just recently he flipped on the issue and he said that the Hyde Amendment has to go. The Hyde Amendment can't stay. And I mean, this is another issue that I think polling shows is not a popular position either. The majority of Americans are opposed to taxpayer-funded abortion and taxpayer-funded abortion overseas.
You're right. Hey, Lauretta, I don't mean to interrupt, but we only got about another minute. There was something else I wanted to touch on in your story. Gillibrand announced this month that as president, she would, quote, only nominate judges, including Supreme Court judges, that would commit to upholding Roe v. Wade as settled law.
Yeah.
I mean, this is...
Yeah.
I wanted to give you time to comment on that.
That I mean, so she's the most extreme on that one that I know of. Well, actually, no. Tim Ryan said. I guess he said the same thing when asked. But Senator Bernie Sanders said that he would apply that to Supreme Court justices.
Right.
But I think it's frightening a little bit that this has become such a big issue for these candidates that they're applying it as a litmus test. And I mean, she even acknowledged in her announcement that traditionally presidents and presidential candidates don't draw lines in the sand on judicial appointments. But she just, she had the whole desperate times call for desperate measures thing. But so yeah, it's things are just intensifying on this issue for the Democrats, and they are getting more extreme on these things. And I think traditionally there hadn't been these judicial litmus tests.
Right. Well, now there.
I think
Now they are. Lauretta Brown, National Catholic Register. Again, Lauretta, it's so great to have you on the show. I've been a fan for quite some time. Please tell our listeners and our viewers how they could follow your work.
Oh, yeah. So you can find me at National Catholic Register, ncregister.com. And, and you can also follow me on Twitter at Lauretta Brown 6, LauretaBrown 6.
All right. Lauretta Brown, National Catholic Register. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Take care and God bless.
Thank you for having me.
And this is the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Angle and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. On the other side, we're going to be talking about a new study that across the board, China tariff would actually boost the U.S. economy and create thousands of jobs. Don't go away. We'll be right back with our next guest, Michael Stumo.
I saw voter fraud with my own eyes. Now, people say, why didn't you report it to the authorities? Well, they were the ones doing it.
The integrity of one man, one vote doesn't apply at the Texas state legislature. There is no way to know if your representatives are voting for themselves.
Department, a Republican, reaches back to vote for Democrat Oliveira. Democrat Matt Reynolds votes for Republican England.
2 out of 3 voters nationwide believe that voter fraud is a serious problem in the U.S. today.
The process is rigged.
Both sides of the aisle are guilty.
Florida now has to tell the Department of Justice whether the state will comply with DOJ's demand to stop purging thousands of people from its voter rolls.
We have the sloppiest election system of any industrialized democracy.
Philadelphia flagged 50,000 duplicate registrations, so just think how many more slipped through.
It's almost impossible to detect.
How do you get caught? You only get caught if you confess.
Election corruption is deeply embedded in America. Quote, election fraud is a crime that usually pays, unquote, writes Tracy Campbell in his book, Deliver the Vote, A History of Election Fraud, an American political tradition from 1742 to 2004. In 1742, the first Prime Minister of Britain in the American colonies, Robert Walpole, was forced to resign.
We have a right not to have our vote canceled out by someone who shouldn't be voting, someone who's an illegal alien, someone who's a felon not eligible to vote, someone who doesn't exist. If they vote, they cancel your vote out as much as if you're prevented from voting.
If this is going to be fixed, it's going to have to be a citizen effort. It comes down to, it's the same old question, if not now, when? If not us, then who?
This is huge. This is about the democracy and the principles of the United States of America. People say, but why you? Why you? Why? Well, why not? And if it starts with a fireman, if it starts with a sanitation worker, if it starts with a teacher or a nurse or a caretaker of the elderly, then so be it. It's got to start somewhere. But it's time we come together and fix this problem once and for all.
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
Serious allegations of voter fraud, the claims raising questions about the
Commerce Secretary Ron Brown and 32 others were on a military plane that crashed today in a violent storm. There are no known survivors at this time.
The U.S. Army was funded by the evil entity.
Saw voter fraud with my own eyes.
To say that it doesn't exist is an outright lie.
The process is rigged.
People die and fall for the right time. It's too late.
So it's incredibly important now that we draw a line and say, not on our watch.
And once again, thank you for staying with us. We always enjoy knowing the fact that you are out there. And for rebroadcast, please check out our website, ccrshow.com. That's ccrshow.com. And you'll find our radio show, our TV show, a lot of great articles, a lot of great information. You won't find us on Facebook. Once again, Facebook has totally banned our website as violating their community standards. Can't even get an appeal from them. But Sharron, we do have our next guest. Please make him feel welcome.
Well, it's an honor to introduce Michael Stumo, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Coalition for Prosperous America, CPA, a coalition of agriculture, manufacturing, and organized labor associations, companies, and individuals. CPA works for policies to balance U.S. trade, maintain U.S. sovereignty, and develop an effective national production and economic strategy. Michael, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Great to be here, Sharron. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's always great to have you, Michael. We are looking at a press release. New CPA study shows across-the-board China tariff will boost U.S. economy and create thousands of jobs. This is good news, isn't it, for America? I mean, the trade war is not a war at all. It actually is a good thing for America. Is that correct?
Yeah, it really is. We've seen this is a unique study in that all the other trade studies you've heard about on the TV or the radio, they have no correlation with reality, from NAFTA to China joining the WTO to the Korea trade agreement. If you look back at all those studies when they predicted gains in jobs and gains for the U.S. economy, this is from a Federal Reserve study that said those studies had no correlation with reality when you look back. And so that's what they're still trotting out now when you hear in the radio, oh, the China trade war is going to cost jobs. So we started looking at, well, what's wrong with them? What's wrong with the studies? And we found that they never considered the value of production coming back to the U.S., the employment, the output, all that. They just assumed it wouldn't happen. They just assumed that, for example, tariffs would have high costs and they would be hard on the economy. But we know from last year that's not how the economy acted, because tariffs were put on last year, and we benefited. Manufacturing employment went up, unemployment went down to 50-year lows. We got more investment. So my team includes an economist who builds economic models. So we took a standard model and did then remove the assumption against reshoring and new employment and new investment. And once we did that, we found that if we put 25% tariffs and we coordinated with what we saw last year in the real economy, not just some theoretical textbook stuff, if we assume that if we have 25% across the board tariffs against China, which we only have it against half of Chinese imports now, but let's assume we go to 100%. Part of that production will move back to the U.S., and that will create jobs and investment and new output. Part of it, and we used some information from the Boston Consulting Group and looked at, well, where are we somewhat competitive with China? So the tariffs will make a difference. Other products will move to third countries like Vietnam, Malaysia, or somewhere else. We'd sure like to have a lot of those jobs, but we're still not close enough to cost competitive for 25% tariffs to make the difference. However, we still benefit because they are lower cost countries than China. China is no longer the lower cost country, so we actually get cheaper imports once they migrate. So we get a boom on the reshoring side, and we get a benefit from cheaper products from the anybody but China strategy, which is happening now, moving elsewhere. So that's how we differ, and we think that correlates with what we saw last year.
Well, and you have some really exciting projections that you've made, as both in billions of dollars and additional jobs. Talk about that.
Yeah, so there's a 721,000 jobs and then 121,000 or so of additional GDP, a GDP bump from the tariffs. And so that's part of it. When you reshore some of the production, you get more output, which is more GDP growth. Of course, reshoring pumps into the job. Now, this is by 2024. It's not next month or, at the end of the year. It's over a 5-year period because it takes time to move these, procurement and industries and jobs to other places. So, that GDP bump, it's actually bigger than what even the president's USMCA, U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement projected. That job bump was pretty modest, nothing against the USMCA, but this is a bigger deal. The China fight is a bigger deal. It's worth having. And the only people right now that are sacrificing are marginally in the farmers. And we're going to come out with an update of this study next week to show, well, what kind of a hit are we taking on China's retaliation, which will move those numbers down a little bit. And then what kind of benefit do we get from recycling the new tariff revenue back into the economy, which is going to be a positive addition to it. So we'll see an update. Again, trying to get these models in line with reality, and that's what we're trying to do. We'll see the update next week.
Well, it's kind of exciting to look at $125 billion increase in GDP, which would sure go a long way to help with a $22 trillion deficit, I would think. Just to have jobs back here, just to have production back here, just to have money coming in that we didn't have coming in before, and it's not all on the taxpayer to pay back that debt. So to me, that's the exciting part.
And the nice thing about it is the quality of employment too, because it's not Frappuccino servers that we're reshoring, right?
Right.
It's manufacturing jobs that tend to be 40-hour per week jobs that tend to have benefits more often than the service sector jobs and the like. So the quality of employment improves too when you do reshoring.
Well, I thought it was interesting too that this doesn't just apply to those that are getting the jobs or those that are in manufacturing or certain areas or sectors of our economy. This is a $700 a year bonus for every American. This is everybody across the board will benefit from this.
That's right. When you move high quality jobs back, for example, you get a new plant in a region that pays higher than the average wage around, those people getting the wage get more money. It builds a supply chain which feeds that new manufacturing facility, but it also tends to raise wages in the community because you just can't get workers if you're paying the same old low wage with low hour anymore. So everyone else has to raise their wages to compete too. So it has a sort of a derivative effect like that that's quite strong.
Well, this isn't really a trade war. I see it as a slap on China's hand. They've been, as you say, they have predatory trade and subsidy practices, and this really is not a war. It's just saying we're not going to do business that way anymore, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. We gave them 20 years to test the theory that China was going to be an open, democratic, capitalistic society. It absolutely is not. They're a 3,000-year-old culture that they're not intending to change just because of the World Trade Organization agreement. And we can't treat them like a free market, free trading economy. And indeed, they're a geopolitical rival to us. And they're challenging our position in the world and gutting our economy by taking the best industries over there in a strategic way and leaving us again with the Frappuccino servers and the hotel janitors.
And nothing wrong with those jobs. We like those guys. I do.
Yeah, but you want to be able to move up the ladder. You don't want the ladder to stop
Yeah,
there.
I don't think that is their lifelong ambition either. That's just a step in the right direction. We are seeing now the lineup, I guess, for the 2020 elections, and these projections are for 2024. What happens if Trump doesn't win? What happens if we get a different president? Does all of this now just reverse? What happens? Or is
that's a really good question. My crystal ball needs a little polishing, I guess. But right now, of course, what do we have? 23 Democrats running. So none of them have been terribly aggressive on trade. Sherrod Brown of Ohio had been one of the more aggressive ones on trade in the past. He's been kind of calmer on that, or I guess more moderate, and he's not running. Tim Ryan is a long shot. He from Ohio. He was a little more, pushing on currency manipulation in the, past few years. But there's a lot of pressure among Democrats not to agree with Trump on anything, even if he has some great ideas. And trade, certainly his trade intervention is a great idea. So there's a lot of pushback to say, oh, he's a nationalist, populist, isolationist, this ist and that ist. So you can't agree even if it's working. So I don't see a Democrat out there that's going to be strong on trade intervention. That being said, there is more bipartisan support for going up against China because Trump has changed the conversation and revealed the predatory practices of China. That's why Schumer gave a congratulatory tweet when the president decided to pull out of the talks and up the tariffs from 10 to 20% on a certain portion of goods. So it's an issue that doesn't cut cleanly down party lines, but certainly if Trump was back in, we'd have a more certain environment to continue the trade pressure for the benefit of the U.S. national security and economic security.
Well, and as we all know, the economy kind of runs on a stable environment. It's difficult to have a good economy when you have an unstable atmosphere. And of course, the Democrats don't seem to have stability in mind. Just get rid of Trump. We are coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, American Political Radio, Leading Edge Radio Network, and AM/FM 24/7. And now you can watch us on the AUN TV network in Northern California. Rick, my co-host, and I, Sharron Angle, will be right back with our guest, Michael Stumo of the CPA, talking about the China trade wars, or not really trade wars.
Have you been leasing a property for your business or renting storage space? Are you tired of paying rent year after year? Call the experts at General Steel to own a building at up to 30% off now.
I'd been renting a building and paying someone else's mortgage, but General Steel showed me how I could own a space tailored to the needs of my business and for less than renting.
Call General Steel now at the number on your screen for our current building specials and to price your metal building system today.
My building's the dream I've had since finishing my house 14 years ago. I've been using it for a garage, workshop, and storage area for my tools and equipment, and I can't believe how great it turned out.
The economy is improving and the price of steel is expected to rise. Stop waiting. It could cost you thousands. Call General Steel now to see how you can own for less than you thought. Stop waiting to start your business or expand your operation. Call General Steel now.
Call 877-484-7002.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America, and get this. Did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Once again, we want to welcome you back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sharron Engel and yours truly, Rick Trader. And our guest this segment is Michael Stumo. Michael is the Chief Executive Officer of the Coalition for a Prosperous America. I like the sounds of that. Michael, thank you for holding through that break. We do appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me back.
Michael, it says here, and Sharron has mentioned, that CPA is a coalition of agriculture, manufacturing, organized labor, associates, companies, and individuals. One of the things I wanted to point out in there, organized labor associations. And could you give me a little bit of feeling how they are feeling? I mean, this is a Trump issue. Trump is hated by the Democrats. The Democrats are doing everything they can to destroy this man, to destroy this presidency. And I would say in doing so, destroying the country. But the labor associations, the organized labor unions, have basically been heavily Democrat contributors, workers, voters. I mean, give us a feeling of how they're feeling at this point.
Right, they're feeling pretty conflicted. Certainly, labor union, the rank and file, at least anywhere from 31 to 38% voted for Trump in the 2016 election. But look, trade doesn't cut cleanly down party lines. There's a dissent and support on either side of the aisle, and of course, Trump is not a typical Republican. And for our group, which is very ideologically broad, from people who supported Trump and were on his campaign to those who supported Hillary and were on her campaign. But a few years ago, when Bush and Obama were in office, they were for every trade agreement. They didn't have to read it. They'd sign any trade agreement just so it said trade agreement on the front page, right?
Right.
And so you had a lot of Democrats, Republicans, but the Democrats in the House were the most skeptical of the trade agreements, and we were perceived as allying with House Democrats about 8 years ago. And then Trump came in and brought a new era of trade intervention in the national interest in a much more aggressive way, and now we've been supportive of him. So now we're supportive of, the Trump administration as opposed to the House Democrats, and we haven't changed for our group. For labor themselves, Bob Lighthizer, Trump's trade team, was in part helped to be chosen by Dan D'Amico, the former chairman of Nucor Steel, who is chairman of our board. Bob Lighthizer is a trade attorney in D.C. who's now the U.S. trade representative. He has he knows the reality because he's been in litigation against these countries and all their cheating in court cases, in ITC, International Trade Commission cases. So he sees the dark underside of the cheating. And Wilbur Ross has seen it, a former steel executive and financier. And then, of course, Peter Navarro, who wrote Death by China. And Navarro is the strongest trade hawk, China hawk. He used to be a Democrat. And now he's the special assistant to the president on trade and manufacturing. So now our labor people like the trade team. Now, you have heard, and I won't repeat, any kind of the dissent on other issues, but they think Bob Lighthizer is the best U.S. trade representative this country's ever seen. So they're really conflicted at the top. But we're pretty clear on the trade issue.
Michael, you talk about industries moving back to the United States. What would those industries be? And could you name particular companies that you would look forward to moving their industry back to the USA?
Sure. A lot of our members are doing plastic mold, are intermediate goods suppliers. In a lot of things you buy, whether it's cars or lawnmowers, and you don't buy many airplanes, or military, but
I bought a couple.
Okay, well, then maybe you have. All right. So a lot of the plastic parts, yeah. You inject plastic into these molds to make some of the parts, and that's for high volume manufacturing. Some of that is coming back. The more the tariffs come up, that some of that comes back. Those who make machine tools, for high volume manufacturing, tools that cut metal, or those that make dies or do the metal stamping or the metal cutting, they're seeing business come back. We saw when the administration put solar panel tariffs on against the world because of dumping of solar tariffs here last January, they thought, well, solar installations will go down because it'll cost more. Well, A, solar installations went up, and B, we saw a few more factories be announced or started or expanded making solar panels in this country. We're seeing more clothes washers being made here after clothes washer tariffs, a lot of new investment in steel. And so the thing is, where we're within 25% or 20% cost competitive with China, it'll come back because of the tariffs. In some cases, it'll come back even without it because of the uncertainty now of doing business in China. Who wants to invest there if you don't know you're going to be able to sell back here?
Right.
But
hey, Michael, there's a couple other issues I want to get into. We're constrained by time. I apologize for that. The balance of trade between U.S. and China, and also how China has been using their industries fueled by U.S. dollars to build their military, and now they're very competitive with the United States. I think they actually have more ships than the United States does, and they're showing their muscles around the world. Could you talk about how the U.S. dollar fueling their economy is responsible for this?
Sure. China is a trade deficit country with the rest of the world. In other words, the rest of the world sells more to China than they sell to the rest of the world. But they have a massive, as of last year, $420 billion trade surplus with the U.S. So the U.S. consumer market is the piggy bank for them to make money. Also, most of those entities that trade are either state-owned or state-controlled or provide a lot of revenue back to the state. And then, of course, some of those companies also help build those militarized islands or help do repression strategies and technology for the Uyghur concentration camps that they have and the like. So you cut off the U.S. piggy bank, the consumer market, which is their piggy bank, and they have a real hard time further increasing their military strength because it costs a lot of money. And we're seeing reports right now that they're shelving some projects because the money coming from our market.
Military projects.
Navy.
I don't think we can express strong enough how important that is to the safety of the United States and the free world. I mean, this is China. They are still a communist country. I still believe they want to be in a position of dominance militarily.
They believe they're the superior culture and the one that should be predominant in the world.
Michael Stumo, we want to thank you for joining us here in the Conservative Commandos radio show. Please tell our audience how they could find out more about the Coalition for a Prosperous America.
Go to prosperousamerica.org. You can sign up to receive regularly send information. You don't have to give us money. You can just get information because that's what's going to win this.
All right. Michael Stumo, thank you so much for joining us. Take care and God bless. And this is the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host today is Sharron Engel. Don't go away. We will be back with more right after this break.
AM/FM 24/7 Roku channel broadcasts all of our shows on demand. To ensure reliability, we store and stream our content on the same servers as Netflix and Amazon. Our Roku channel is free to use, and anyone owning one of the more than 10 million Roku devices can watch our channel at no cost whatsoever. If you have a television show or are thinking about producing a show, you can be a part of AM/FM 24/7's Roku channel. Watch our great shows on your Roku device. It's free and more reliable than cable TV. Are you stuck with a timeshare? Did you attend the presentation and were seduced and enticed into buying that great vacation and investment? Now you're in the terrible position of trying to figure out a way to get out of that mess. You're not alone. For over 15 years, BuyYourTimeshare.com has been helping people like yourself get out of timeshare ownership. The fact is there is no resale market. Unscrupulous telemarketers call you and say they have buyers waiting, and the next thing that happens is you give them hundreds of dollars for an ad, and you'll never hear from them again. Another fact is that an identical timeshare to yours is being offered on eBay for $1, and no one is buying it. If you want out of your timeshare, I urge you to go to BuyYourTimeshare.com or call them at 877-94-HELP-ME. That number again is 877-94-HELP-ME. BuyYourTimeshare.com. That's BuyYourTimeshare.com. 877-94-HELP-ME.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Well, Sharron Engel, once again, I thoroughly enjoyed doing today's show with you. I learned so much from you and from our guests. I really do. Please tell our audience how they could follow what you do when you're not here at Conservative Commandos.
Well, they can go to SharronEngel.com, SharronEngel.com. And I want to quickly thank our guests. They make our show. First, Jennifer Braceras, who talked to us about Nevada becoming one of these popular vote spots. And our next guest, Lauretta Brown, talking about all of the Democrats embracing the pro-life position. And finally, Michael Stumo, who told us that this tariff thing with China is a good thing for America. So we're grateful to them all.
Indeed we are. But for right now, we are out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. We'll see you tomorrow on TV and on radio.